We are here today for the Revere Board of Education work session. Today is June 17th, 2025. Mr. Verdine, will you please call the roll?
Mrs. Brackett.
Here.
Mr. Hyde.
Here.
Mr. Malik.
Here.
Mrs. Rainey.
Here.
Mrs. Stein.
Here.
Thank you. There are no presentations today. The Board of Education does not have any items on today's agenda. Mr. Verdine, anything for Treasurer?
I do not have anything to thank you.
Mr. White, anything for Superintendent?
No.
All right. So let's go in and discuss the draft agenda for our June 24th regular meeting.
All right, we will not have any guests for Pledge of Allegiance or any students here for next week's meeting. Then no presentations at this time. Public speaks to agenda items, and then Board of Education's agenda. We don't have any items at this time for Board of Education. Cuyahoga Valley Career Center, Mrs. Burke, you will?
I will.
Yes. You will present something for us next Tuesday. Okay, so I had to make that change. Thank you. And Mr. Verdine?
Standard items, the asset deletions are some more curriculum materials that were piloted and we no longer use. And then we'll have the FY26 initial appropriations measure and the FY25 amended appropriations measure, which 26, the general fund portion of that will be eerily similar to the 5-year forecast numbers as intended. So that we utilize that forecast document as a planning tool. And then FY25 is really just a culmination of the appropriations you would have approved last June for this fiscal year, and then the budget revisions that are approved each month as part of the monthly financial report. By doing that, it makes a pretty simple package for audit purposes when they show up here. So I have done it that way for a long time. It seems to work well. So that's it. And that I'll get to. The 26th is done. The 25 we're still working to finish. We have the payroll on the 20th, so I'm trying to get as much known actual expenses in before I run that thing. Then I'll get that out to you. If it's not part of what Brenda sends out, you'll have it before Tuesday. I hope to have it to you this week.
Mine has to change the bottom. Right before.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I see it. Thanks, Mr. Verdine.
Yep.
Let's have an aside conversation.
All right.
Mr. Malik has skipped ahead.
No problem.
Mr. Verdine, are you having any conversations with anybody about this inside millage discussion? Like when you're looking at 26, are you thinking about impacts and stuff?
We have.
Okay.
Today we received an email that says that they don't expect that House Bill 335 to move very far.
Okay.
We were Dan and I were both on a Zoom meeting yesterday with the group about that. It was heavily attended through OSBA, BASO, ESBO. It got into the inside millage, it got into 20-month floor, it got into cash balance, carryover allocations, and as it's hard to follow the budget process from where it starts with the governor to where it ends at the end of the day. Always, every 2 years, it's hard to follow. House Bill 335 was introduced maybe a week or two ago. I mean, it had like 3 weeks before the end of the process. I will say as Verdine, not as Revere, I'm extremely disappointed that Representative Romer is actively involved in that. And I know this is being recorded as I make these comments, but we had a meeting with him and we had a conference call with him, and I can assure you that this bill in no way represents any portion of the information that we shared with him on behalf of the school district that led to that. So having watched the news conference when that bill was announced was really disappointing as the treasurer of Revere, but I'll let them be my personal comments rather than representing anyone else. So that bill is super difficult to analyze because we are a 20-month floor district. And there's a lot of nuances with that are buried in that bill with 20-month floor, with substitute levies, which we have one of those. So you could come off you could lose inside millage and still be at the 20-month floor because you always bump back to the floor. So we were running that yesterday in my office, and we were getting no change because you take the 5.7 inside mills out, and the thing just kept bumping to the 20 mil floor. Now, which I can't run in my software, it might do it. The old guy doesn't know how to make it do it. Perhaps that's possibly true, but I don't think it even does it. But if you infuse the substitute levy into the inside millage calculation, which is not part of current law, that changes the scenario to some degree. But I wasn't able to model that to know the impact. So the information today was to keep the foot on the gas with legislators, that they don't anticipate this moving far, if at all, at least in this session. So I remain hopeful that's true.
Yeah.
Or at least some big pieces. The cash balance cap, we were roughly at 46%. FY24 will be similar. FY25, the governor didn't have it in. The governor has come out with comments that he's not necessarily in favor of it. That doesn't mean that's what he'll be by June 30th. So he gets to speak for himself. But he has the most powerful pen in Ohio right now, more than the Joint Committee or anybody else, because he can line item veto. 30% became the House proposal, 50% became the Senate proposal. I was on a call in finalizing our forecast, and that would have been back in late April, early May. And back then, one of the gentlemen who works with Forecast 5, the software company we utilize, told me that they were hearing it be 70 or 75% by the time it's done, if it stays, because the governor has indicated to someone that he was considering line item vetoing if it sticks through. So I'm not sure that one will land either. I guess we'll all know that in the next 2 weeks. But so we've done some preliminary analysis. It's not in the forecast. It's not in our budget. But if you take 5.7 mils off the table, and let's say that something happens with that substitute, so 20 mil floor really mean the inside millage removal really means something. Why they exempted townships, that's also curious to me. And we had a conversation with Representative Romer about charter millage, and I've worked in 2 districts where charter millage for cities was a big deal. And those charter mills they're exempt from House Bill 920 like inside mills. And typically, 2 cities that I worked in where I know about it, they had double-digit charter millage. Well, that's more than 5.7, because I'm talking 2 digits to the left of the decimal. Well, how do you not consider that if you want to get taxpayer relief? Because they're getting twice as much as we are that aren't subject to 920. Well, he was going to go talk to his staffers and get more information about charter millage. I'm not sure where that went, if anywhere. But the information was shared. In that conversation, we did talk about increasing that cash balance cap to some degree and put something on where you can't go on the ballot if you exceed a certain threshold. So one of the items we talked about was if you had 100%, because one of the long-standing thoughts is when you start deficit spending, you need to be considering when your next operating levy would be, because the deeper the deficit, the more the millage has to be to make up for it. So we had that conversation with Representative Romer. And there has been discussion about putting like 100% in as that cash balance amount. I can't say that was only Dan and me who brought that up. There might have been hundreds of people who brought it up across the state, but if there are hundreds, we are 2 of hundreds that brought that up, and it has at least gained some traction with people to consider some number higher than 30 or 50. 30 or 50, just they don't logically make good sense to me for any long-term planning purposes. And I happen to believe that Revere taxpayers are largely happy they don't see us on the ballot. If you take away 5.7 inside mills, we will need that soon.
Okay.
Because that 5.7 mils is $8+ million a year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So we were looking at 20-some million in the 5-year forecast, bottom right corner. Well, in year 1, if that went into effect 1/1/26, you'd lose about half of that. So that's 4 1/4, let's say. And then let's take 8.5, you're at 21 1/4. So in 3 years, you're essentially at 0. So we would need to start talking about a 5.7 mil levy immediately to retain what we have. not to add a single thing.
Right.
That makes 0 sense to me.
Right.
And
Yeah, it's very complex. I appreciate your insight into it. I know from the other side of things, I was on a county call today and we were talking a lot about it. And then obviously that wasn't focused on schools, so I just wanted your insight as well.
There are more, I hit 3 or 4 parts there. There's more to that bill in particular, and that bill is independent of the governor's budget proposal, the House budget proposal, and the Senate budget proposal. So there are a lot of moving parts with this. I don't proclaim to know all of them or have them all analyzed, because I certainly don't,
But what you're hearing now is that it's not gonna go far in this session.
335 is not likely to go real far this session, is what we read today.
Okay.
From a pretty reliable source, frankly. Yeah, it's one of our state association groups, yeah.
All right, thank you.
Yes.
All right, Mr.
Thank
White.
you. All right, in superintendent's agenda, first item we have is resignation of the Director of Human Resources and Communications for the purpose of retirement. And the word "of" will be on the agenda when it goes out Friday. We made that correction today, if you noted. Word "of's" not in there, but
It is
the
on
change in STRS to 32 years.
It's on mine.
No, it's not. Look at your paragraph.
Oh, gotcha. Sorry.
Were you missing part?
I gotcha. I got it. Sorry. I was looking at the wrong thing.
Okay, good. B is a leave of absence for Katie Laxo. At C, we have a change in position for one of our newer teachers going from 7th grade mathematics to 8th grade. All right, and then under item B, we have a list of new hires. Belly Trimble will be a new kindergarten teacher for us. Isabel Ride for a intervention specialist. Leah Parrish for math teacher. And then Kimala, there will be an extended school year for our students requiring extended school year this summer. Any questions on the new hires? All right. Letter E, we have additional hours for kindergarten early entrance and appeal to some of the work that was done there for those teachers helping us through that appeal process. And then F, we have our list of co-curricular non-athletic supplemental contracts, followed by the athletic supplemental contracts at G. H will have a salary increase for those 2 teachers, qualifying for the master's plus 16 plus 30. We have an anticipated resignation. Mr. Warner has sent an email saying that he's at least verbally committed to being the assistant principal at Cuyahoga Falls Middle School.
Good for him. It's exciting.
Any questions on certified personnel there? All right, classified. Number 2A, extended time for Helen Athletic Department, 12 days. And then we have co-curricular non-athletic supplemental contracts and athletic supplemental contracts, followed by hiring some substitute custodians. And then E, we have summer work substitute custodians.
I would give kudos, even though she's retiring, I would give kudos to Karen,
Even though.
even though she deserves this. Karen and her colleagues that have worked on hiring to fill our vacancy. There's a lot. Not that, I don't know if this is more or less than any other year, but we keep a spreadsheet. I think some of you have seen it, all of you have seen it, where we try to track the salary savings from attrition. And we are in excess of $500,000 next year. So I won't go back to the budget conversation and the cash balance caps and all that stuff. But there's a lot of things we do in a school district, not just here, but I guarantee you we do it here to try to be responsible with taxpayer dollars. One is how we fill positions. And if you look at who they hired folks across the continuum. There are people with higher levels of degree and experience years, and there are people with the lower level of degrees and no experience, and a bunch in the middle. And all of that yields about in excess of $500,000 in salary savings. Well, again, I'd say take that over a 5-year forecast. It's $2.5 million. It's a lot of money. That's another reason why we aren't on the ballot since 2011. So thank you to Karen. challenge to whoever becomes her replacement that they have to maintain that in future years. So thanks for setting that standard.
Thank you.
Yes,
Very-
thank you.
Excited about that.
Very well done, and I reflected a portion of that in the May forecast. You may recall me talking about briefly, but I'll put it all in there the next time because it'll be a different number, but it helps us prolong what is possibly the inevitable, which is another operating levy, but it makes me smile when I know it's 2011 and we're now at 2025 and we're not talking about it. It's not in the forecast. So those types of actions and responsible management really enable us to carry that further and further. So I'll stop.
And I'll add, I just know the conversation we had today is not accidental. Karen has been very intentional about leading our hiring teams to make sure that we're seeing those kind of cost savings and things. So we've done a great job of finding great people, but
Yeah, we're really excited about our
I'm
new
sorry?
hires. We're really excited about the new hires
Yes.
that you'll be meeting this fall.
She has said that before, and then we're still saving $500,000.
Right.
And she feels great about the talent that we're bringing in. So kudos to you and
Thank you,
everybody
Karen.
involved. Thank you.
Thanks.
thank you. That's a good footnote. Thank you, Rick. So F, we have our paint crew for this summer. And then just those lists of who's working on our paint crews. Letter H, we have a resolution there. I've offered for a resignation, but still waiting to hear back on that. Any questions on any of those up to number 3? Student services, Mrs. Castle's been working hard to get a lot of these contracts done before she moves on. So before Mr. Connolly starts in her place. So I have a list for you. A, there at Kids Link is for student placements. B, our PSI Associates, that's our nursing services contract. C, Greenleaf is services for the deaf, hard of hearing student. And then we have the letter D is a music therapy for students with intensive needs.
I like that name.
E is a cross-thread solutions. That's an interpreters for translation purposes, not for hearing impaired. Sorry. TES is our BCBA, our behavior specialist that helps us. And then G, Summit County ESC is for student placement. For letter H, that's just for the extended school year services this summer. So it's vision services that are happening during extended school year service this summer. And then I, we have the Thrive Early Learning Center. That's again for student needs and placement. J, we have the Applewood Centers, student placement. And then for K, there's a misspelling. It should be Morgan. There should be a G there. Morgan, that will be corrected on the agenda that goes out. So, but again, individualized instruction for literacy programming. We have option for translation support if we need that option. M is LEAP programming for a student we have. And then letter N is extended school year speech. Any questions on any of those? Okay, very good. For other business, we'll have our second read for those policies that are revised. I did share an email today with some information on 6.05, the open enrollment, where it was explaining with that phrase of a balance of racial, getting the phrase off the top of my mind.
Like maintaining racial balance.
Yes,
Yeah.
the racial balance, thank you, that was the word. So, yeah, maintaining that was compliant with state law. So, any questions on that? Did you guys get a chance to see that?
I did, yeah. Thank you for sending that.
And then for 9.39, the Parents' Bill of Rights, we did have an update to that where we had oral or written communication depending on how staff members would want to communicate with parents.
As it relates to the Bill of Rights?
Yeah.
What's your intent moving forward?
So my intent, I'm glad you asked that question, Keith. So I'm going to handle this like we did with the cell phone policy. So I've talked with Brenda and Karen, and we're working on putting together some dates. We have to pass this policy by law by July 1st, but I'm going to put out there, I know people are interested in amending it. And so meeting with community members and others to take recommendations or considerations rather for that policy, and then we'll share that with you. And so that way, I know for our last board meeting, there were a number of people that had different concerns for this policy, but we also have to pass it by July 1. So we will pass it, but then I'll revisit that policy with meeting with community members to hear from them amendments they would suggest that we consider, and then reconsider those.
And you were looking, if I remember, you were looking to reconsider that in like September?
Right.
Okay.
So right now, the dates we're looking at are August primarily, and then September. We were talking about doing like doing Zoom meetings for folks that may just need to have their lunchtime, want to Zoom in and share things, do a 3 o'clock, 5 o'clock in person or Zoom again, so people could communicate and let me know what they would like to see or what they would recommend. Yeah. I think we have about 7 or 8 dates right now. Yeah. So
Thanks for doing that again.
Yep.
I agree. I think it worked really well when you did it with the cell phone policy. I think that was really helpful, so thank you for taking the time to do that.
Yeah, you're welcome. All right, any questions or comments about any of the rest of those policies? Okay. With B, we have the curriculum recommendations, second and final reading, and then we have some agreements there at C, would be the data sharing agreement with the Summit Educational Initiative, and then the memorandum of understanding for a school resource officer with the Summit County Sheriff's Department, NeoNet, EMIS Shared Services at letter E, and then Ms. Krantz will be sharing a little bit about IDIB and CCIP.
Yeah, that's usually customary every year.
Yeah, there will be no action with that, with letter F. All right, and then we'll have an overnight trip to approve for the volleyball team, letter G. Any questions?
I just have a comment about the SRO agreement. Last year, the board had asked us to, we previously partnered, Officer Dressler comes to us from the village of Richfield. Prior to that, it was about Bath Township officer that's been in place, I don't know, 10, 12, 15 years, I'm gonna guess, where those two entities plus the district share the cost of the first SRO. So the interest from the board was to add a second SRO, so now we have 2. The second one came from Summit County Sheriff's Department, and Revere Schools Foundation has partnered with the school district on that, and they covered about half of the first year cost. We've not had to dialogue with them about next year, but we went back. We believe as a district, the partial year this year went so well with Deputy Weathers. We asked the county for a 3-year agreement, which they were agreeable to do, except that they only have 1 year left on their existing collective bargaining agreement. So they didn't want to commit to pricing for years 2 and 3, not knowing where that would land. So it's why this appears to be a 1-year deal. There's some language in the agreement that makes it appear to be a 3-year, but it requires us to approve the agreement in successive years. So you'll see it again next year, even though our attempt was to get a 3-year. We just couldn't quite get it the way we would have preferred because of the timing of their collective bargaining process, which we certainly understand and respect. But the county and the foundation have been a great partner on SRO2, and Bath Township and the village of Richfield continue to be wonderful partners on SRO1. So we're pretty fortunate in Revere to have 3 agencies now with whom we partner, 4 if you count our own foundation, to make this happen for our family, students, and staff. So it's really a great thing.
What I'd like to thank too, it's really because of the generosity of the people in our district who have supported the Revere Schools Foundation so much that they can do that. So it's a wonderful collaboration with community and businesses, and yeah, so it's very much appreciated. I love having a second SRO here, so I'm grateful for that.
Thank you.
Officer Weathers is staying.
He
So,
is.
okay. He's so nice.
He's thrilled to be here. When we interviewed him, if you want to call it that, it was kind of a meeting more than an interview, because the the county has a process for employment and assignment, so we didn't get full control, so I don't wanna make it sound like we did. They've been wonderful to work with though. And he wanted to be here long-term. Now that he's been here for most of a year, he's more than happy to be here. We're gonna buy a few more days of his time this year to be here on days when the building is occupied with other than students. This year it was just student-type days. So we have a few days before and after school, as well as some staff and service days where we will utilize him going into this second year. But yes, he will be back and is thrilled to be here.
Great.
And he's been great. I mean, he works games for us on extra duty. He works events for us on extra duty, even though he's primarily assigned to Bath and the middle school. He worked graduation. I mean,
And people are really starting to get to know him and recognize him.
he's
Yeah, it's great.
visible. He's nice young man.
Yeah.
Everybody's young compared to me anymore, but he is a very nice young man who loves what he does for us. So,
I appreciate it.
thanks.
Thanks, Rick.
Thank you. That's it.
All right. Anybody have any questions on the draft agenda? All right. Well, we do have reason to go into executive session to discuss the employment of a public employee. So may I have a motion and a second to do that?
Motion?
Second.
All right, Mr. Burdine?
Mrs. Stein,
Yes.
Mrs. Rainey,
Yes.
Mrs. Brackett,
Yes.
Mr. Hyden.
Yes.
Mr. Mallon.
Yes. And the board won't take any action when we come out of executive session. So, thank you all.
Thank
Enjoy
you.
the rest of your evening. I don't think it's raining right now.